So we're just gonna hit this so that you guys understand what the last grammar point in this book is all about. And it's all about phrasal verbs. Okay? I am on page 74 in our book, and I'm looking at the pink box up at the top. So listen, phrasal verbs are interesting little buggers, and they drive students crazy. Why? Why? Because when you add, really what you're doing is you're adding a preposition to a verb. And it changes from a preposition to what we call a particle, okay, when it changes the meaning of the verb. So when the meaning of the verb is changed by a preposition that follows it, guess what? It's actually a particle, and you're creating a phrasal verb. So the magic here is, read the sentence carefully. If the preposition changes the meaning of the verb, guess what? You're dealing with a phrasal verb, which is a verb and a particle. If you're just dealing with a verb and a prepositional phrase, then the meaning of the verb stays what it is, and you're just dealing with a prepositional phrase. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're talking about phrasal verbs, and these are tricky for students because of the inferred meaning. Okay? Because of the way it changes the verb, the meaning of the verb. So, two things really that you need to know about phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs can be either transitive or they can be intransitive. Alright? Two big categories of phrasal verbs. First of all, let's talk about transitive. A transitive phrasal verb, really any transitive verb, that sounds like a disease, doesn't it? Transitive. I transmitted transitive. It's not a disease. Here's the deal. Junbin, read this. That's all it is, man. So whatever verb you use in a sentence, if it requires or is possible to add a direct object onto the sentence, that verb is transitive. So that's it. Transitive verbs are subject, verb, and then it gets an object. Most sentences that are active in nature are transitive. Okay? The boy kicked the ball. So think of it as a transfer of action from the subject to an object. And that's why it's called transitive. There's a transfer of action. The boy did something to something else, right? The boy kicked the ball. So listen, why is that important when you're talking about phrasal verbs? It's important because when the phrasal verb is transitive, it is possible to separate the verb and the particle and put the object in between. Does that make sense? It is also possible that the phrasal verb by nature is inseparable. So basically, if the verb is transitive, it opens up the possibility that the phrasal verb can be separated or it may need to be kept together. Now, when we get down here to intransitive, listen, it means the verb does not require an object. It doesn't have an object. There are certain verbs that they'll never have an object. So it makes sense when the verb is intransitive or the phrasal verb is intransitive, if there's no object, there's nothing to put between the sandwich. Right? If you don't, think of the object. You guys like cheeseburgers? Yeah. Yeah. So my kids are weird. Okay? We go to McDonald's. My daughter specifically orders a cheeseburger, only cheese on the burger, on the meat, with ketchup only.
Me too.
All right? Think of that as transitive. All right? Intransitive, it's like
Just bread.
yeah! My son, he's weird. He just gets the meat. He calls it a meatball. Dad, I want a meatball. Right? But think of intransitive as no bun. There's no there's no meat. There's no object. Okay? It'd be like my littlest daughter, she just eats bread with nothing on it. I get her a cheeseburger, just bread. Hand her a piece of bread. All right, so let's take a look at an example of a transitive separable. Okay? Phrasal verb. All right, here's the rule. Direct object nouns can go before or after the particle. So let's take a look at the sentence. Let's check out those new CDs. Where's the subject? Where's the subject?
Subject, let's check.
Us, right?
Yes. Let's
Where's the verb?
check.
And?
Object out.
No.
No.
Where's the particle?
Out.
Remember, it's a phrasal verb.
The preposition is out and the object new CDs.
So listen, yeah. So those new CDs, here's your object, right? Really, this is acting like an object phrase. But anyway, the point here is this little word is check out. What does that mean in English? Let's check out those new CDs.
Let's see what's inside it.
Yeah.
Let's look at it, right? Let's observe it. Let's notice it. So notice it, the particle here, it is a particle because it changes
The meaning.
the meaning. Check out, I mean, you can also check out of a grocery store, right? It means pay for your food and stuff and then leave. So here's your particle, here's your verbal phrase together, here's your object. This rule, right, it's telling you it's okay to take the object, look at this one. Let's check those CDs out. All that happened was they shifted the particle from here and they put it on the end. They made a cheeseburger.
So what do you mean, teacher? The preposition is flexible in the sentence. Before
Yeah.
or after the object, it's okay.
Correct. So this information right here, when you have a noun that's a direct object, like a clear noun, be careful with some phrasal verbs. This is one of them. You can move this, right, to the center. So now, here is my subject, verb, object phrase, and then my particle is on the end, isn't it? And we call that a separable phrasal verb because it can be separated, and you put the object in the middle. You okay?
Yeah.
All right, now listen. Beware! Caution! Be careful! I don't know how else to say this. Direct object pronouns must come before the particle. So listen, when the object of the sentence is a pronoun, a direct object pronoun, look at this example. Let's check them out.
Yes.
This is an object pronoun, them. Okay? Whenever the object of the sentence is a pronoun, you must put it, okay? Direct object pronouns must come before the particle. So you notice it's before the particle. I can't say, let's check out them.
No, it's not.
Can't do it. Okay? All right. So, inseparable. There are also verbs, if you look in the book here, it says some separable verbs are always separated. That means, man, what this is difficult. All right? What it means is there's some that you have to separate. But you can't put, you know what I mean? You can't put the object on the end. It needs to go in the middle. Look at the example. It says,
Keep something on. See something through.
well, hold on. It's look at some separable verbs that are always separated. I've been trying. Can you read that, Prophet? I've been trying. Right here. You see that? I've been trying.
I've been trying to talk my kids into watching other things.
Yeah, you cannot say,
I've been trying to talk into my kids watching other things.
hey, the good news is, does that sound funny to you? I mean, does it sound a little weird?
Yes.
Yeah.
Listen, most of them, all right? Most of them, if it's wrong, it sounds funny, okay? It's just, there's some that you're not sure of, but listen, most of these that have to be separated, and when you don't separate them, it's going to sound really weird, Okay? And when it sounds weird, it's probably wrong. Is that, you understand? All right. And then finally, inseparable phrasal verbs. These are verbs, this is the opposite. It means they always stay together. You can never separate them. So with inseparable phrasal verbs, all direct objects always come after the particle. You just got to put it after the particle. So,
Teacher, even if we have pronoun?
that would be the exception to the rule, right? Because we know pronouns, we just learned.
But they say, teacher, it's impossible to separate.
Correct. And I'm trying to, let's look at if you can think of an example with one of these, look at their example, cater to. Because of the nature of the verb, my belief is, I'm going to say this, I'm probably going to get proven wrong, it doesn't create an opportunity where you can put the pronoun in there like that. Let's check it out. Let's try it. So, those kinds of companies cater to younger customers. Again, it's saying they're inseparable. You can't divide it up. You can't say those kinds of companies cater younger customers to. Now, what if we tried to change younger customers to a pronoun? Those kinds of companies cater them to. Cater. You can't do it. No. So when it's an inseparable phrasal verb, it just sounds bizarre. So that rule does not apply to inseparable phrasal verbs. This rule right here that we talked about, it only applies to separable phrasal verbs. Okay? Does that make sense? So when there is a object pronoun involved, this rule, this beware, watch out, be careful, it only happens, this rule only applies to, when you get down here to inseparable, put them on the end. So you could say, those kinds of companies cater to them. Cater to those guys. Cater to young people. See what I'm saying? So you could change the object there into a object pronoun and put it on the end in that situation. Alright? Alright. Let's keep looking at this. They give some more example phrasal verbs, 2-word or 3-word verbs. Now that's interesting too. Phrasal verbs can be either like a 2-word phrasal verb, like check out, but it could also be it could be a 3-word phrase. And they give you some examples here. Let's see. Abdulaziz, will you read the term phrasal verb? Do you see that right here at the beginning?
Phrasal verb, 2-word and 3-word verbs. The term phrasal verb refers to the verb and practical, which together have special meaning. For example, put plus of meaning. Postpone.
Yeah. So put off. He put off studying for the exam. It means he postponed it. He waited. See that?
Yep.
Sometimes, keep going.
Sometimes phrasal verb consists of 3 parts. For example, put plus up plus with means tolerate. Phrasal verbs are also called 2-word verb or 3-word verbs.
Good. So here's a nice example, put up with. All right? It means to tolerate something. So you remember when you were a kid, you put up with your younger brother or your younger sister? You know what it means to tolerate?
To be nice?
No, it means they're there, but you don't pay attention to them. You let them play and do whatever they want. You just kind of tolerate it. You don't like it, but you don't hate it. They're just there. You can't get rid of them, right? You put up with it. You tolerate. Tolerate. Okay? And that's what makes these tricky. when you start combining verbs with particles, and it changes the meaning, and it's frustrating, I know. All right, and there's hundreds of them, and we use them all the time in spoken English. All right, separable phrasal verbs. They give you some examples of separable phrasal verbs. Young men, read A.
I had my pen.
I
hear.
I handed.
I handed my paper in yesterday.
Good. Or B.
I handed in my paper yesterday.
Good. Or
I handed it in yesterday.
see that? 3 different ways to say the same thing. It would be, by the way, incorrect to say, will you read the incorrect?
I handed in it yesterday.
Yeah. And that's because of the beware. Remember, when it's separable, never stick the pronoun, the object pronoun, never stick it on the end. You stick it in the middle. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. So next section, non-separable phrasal verbs. And let's see, Megan, read the rule. With a non-separable, can you read off to the right? Yeah, read over here the rule.
With the noun responsible, is verb, noun or pronoun responsible,
Preposition or particle.
as and
Okay, you following me? Hey, when you run into a non-separable phrasal verb, it requires you to stick either the noun or the pronoun, going back to that question you asked. When it's inseparable, whether it's a noun or an object pronoun, you got to stick it where? On the end or in the middle?
And then,
On the end. Non-separable, you can't separate it. You okay? And they give 2 examples. Abdelaziz, read D.
D. I ran into an old friend yesterday.
Good. Where, Abdelaziz, let me ask you, what's the phrasal verb in that sentence?
Into.
The whole phrase.
I ran into.
Just the phrasal verb.
Ran to.
Good. Good. Ran into. So listen. Did you literally... I saw it right, and I ran it. I hurt my head.
No.
Oh. What does it mean?
I can't.
I went.
Yeah, you just went and saw him. You encountered him maybe on the street. You passed.
teacher,
Yeah.
are there only 7 phrasal verbs that you cannot put the pronoun object between the...
7?
Yep. They count in instead of...
No! That's only a sample. They don't want to scare you. Turn to the back of the book and I'll scare you. Turn back the book. Starting on page... What page? It is page... What page is it?
98.
98. Yeah, if you go to page 98, okay, they give you a nice grammar spot at the top, what we're talking about right now. Do you need to cry?
Yes.
I'll give you a
Yes.
handkerchief. It'll make you cry, okay? And really, hey, listen, here's the good news. Good news is, the best way to learn these is just by listening to Americans speak English. And listen, again, when something doesn't sound right, it's probably because it's not, you're not doing it right. But listen, the only thing you can do is spend time with this chart. And it's valuable because these are used all the time in spoken English. And the more of these you learn, many of them are idiomatic. We use them in a certain way in certain contexts. If you can learn these, I believe this could be one of the hardest things about English. I remember working with a Brazilian engineer. He spoke great English, but he came to me because he was frustrated at work. When he was giving a presentation to his boss and the people around him, he would hear things, phrasal verbs, that he didn't understand, and everybody, they'd be laughing, right? They'd be like, what just happened? And that's frustrating. Or they would be upset about something and they'd use a phrasal verb, but he didn't know why they were upset. So that's what we worked on. We worked on phrasal verbs so he would understand what was going on around him. And they happen all the time. So take the time, learn these. If you learn them and you can use them, it really feels special to an American, right? Because you know the culture. You got to know culture and context to use these correctly. Does that make sense? All right, and there's hundreds of them. There's hundreds. But start here. These are the most common. And the other thing I want you to notice, it says, phrasal verbs are especially common in informal English. Following is a list of common phrasal verbs and their usual meanings. This list contains only those phrasal verbs used in the exercises in the text. The phrasal verbs marked with an asterisk are non-separable. So listen, there's a little star by some of these. They're non-separable. It means you can't separate them. Let me ask you a question. Are there more stars or more blanks?
More blanks.
I don't know. Keep looking over here.
Stars.
I think there are more there are fewer stars than there are blanks. So the point is, I believe there's fewer that are non-separable. So if it were me, I would focus on making sure I knew those, so that I knew when I was violating the rule, and it's easier to learn the list that has fewer things on it, right? So, yeah, so be smart. I would learn the ones with asterisks first, and then keep adding the others. Okay? Hey, here's the other thing you can do. If you go to Google, there's a website called English Page. I think it's .com, but go to Google and just type into search. Yeah, it's called the Phrasal Verb Dictionary. And it's going to pull up a website called English Page. I think it's .com, okay? And that has a phrasal verb dictionary that has all of the most common phrasal verbs listed alphabetically. It'll give you the phrasal verb, it'll tell you if it's separable or inseparable, and then what's nice, it gives you example sentences with the meaning, okay? That's the best place, I think, to go learn lots of phrasal verbs. All right, let's go back to the grammar. You know what, why don't you turn the camera off so the video doesn't get too long there, thank you. Back to page... Is it going? Oh, okay. Whew. All right. Number one, we're practicing phrasal verbs. Go ahead.
Lara looked after her father when he was sick.
How did you know the answer to that? It's in the book. Good job. You were so smart. All right. Do B.
Okay. Lara looked over her children's homework. It means review.
Good. It means to review. Looked over. Good. C. Faisal.
Look up some information on internet.
Good. And what does that mean? Look up.
Look for information.
Good. D. Mohammed.
Look into unusual situation at all.
Yeah. What does look into mean?
Investigate.
Investigate. Good. All right. Let's go to number 2. Jean Bin. Do 2A. Read the whole sentence. The tourists.
Tourists checked into.
Checked. Are you doing A?
Yeah.
So what means to borrow? If you go to the library, you check
Take over.
out.
Check out.
Yeah. Okay, read it again. The tourist checked.
The tourists checked out.
Yeah. Did you say tourist or terrorist? You know the difference, right?
Tourists.
Yeah, you don't want to be a terrorist. Okay.
The tourists checked out Cheryl's DVDs from the libraries before her trip.
Good. And it means to borrow, check out. Good. Let's jump over to Meghan and do B.
The tourists check into the hotel.
Good. And what does it mean to check into?
Investigate.
Good.
Also could be the tourists check in.
Yes, it means to register at or to move into the hotel, right? To go into the hotel. All right, C. Rafid.
Tourists check out a famous archaeological, you see it?
Archaeological.
Archaeological site means investigate.
Good. So checked out means investigated. By the way, what is an archaeological site? Does anybody know? So does anybody know what archaeology is?
The person who in the earth, who knows in the earth.
Yes. So it is, archaeology is a division of science that studies the past in the earth.
Yeah.
So these are guys, especially in the Middle East, where a lot of you guys live.
Egypt.
Even in Asia. It's when a scientist goes out and tries to discover an old city, right? And they dig in the dirt and looking for treasures and things. Yeah. All right, D. Let's go, Fawaz.
The tourists checked out of their hotel room.
Yeah, what does that mean? Check out of. Left. Good. All right, 3. Meghna, do 3A.
This is Jenkins.
Mrs. Jenkins.
Got
Good.
serious.
Yeah, what does got over mean?
Recovered from.
Recovered from. Very good. 3B, Rafid.
Mrs. Jennings got through.
Mrs.
Jenkins got through with her planning for her daughter's wedding. Means finished.
Good. Got through with, or I actually put got done with. You might say that too, but got through with is good. It means to finish. All right, C. Faisal.
Give back her summer vacation early. Return.
Did we do C?
See?
Yeah, what's C, Faisal?
Okay. Get
Read the sentence.
Mrs.
Jenkins
got through her planning of daughter's wedding. Finished.
Wait a minute. We're doing C. Can somebody help him out? Well,
C.
C. Oh, you got it? You got it? Your eyes are jumping, I think.
Yes.
We're doing C. Mrs. Jenkins.
Got out of.
Yes. Got out of.
Doing an appointment.
Unimportant.
Important project at work.
Excellent. And what does it mean to get out of?
Avoided.
Avoided. Good. Will you take D, Mohammed?
Yeah. Mrs. Jenkins got back from her summer vacation
Good. And what is got back from? Good. It means returned. Fawaz, will you do E?
Mr. Jenkins got out the subway at an unfamiliar stop lift.
Do you guys like that?
Get
Got
out.
off would be correct. Got off the subway at an unfamiliar stop. That means she left. Hey, good job. Okay, we can stop the recording. Hey, let's try to do D. These are great practice, by the way. D and E on page 79.